Steelers Nation? We are live here at Chat Sports Studios here in Dallas, Texas. A bit earlier today, a couple hours earlier, because our producer today, Jeremy Chuggs, has another live show to do after this one, but we're going to have another epic live show here on Steelers Talk. I'm Jack Sperry. I'm going to be your host today. Chuggs, say hello to Steelers Nation real quick.
Hey, what's going on? Excited for today's live show.
Chuggs, I am so excited because last week we had one of the most epic live shows, I think, especially when you talk about the first couple live shows in a channel's history. Last week was pretty epic. Like, we got a bunch of late super chats. We crowned a King Yenzer. Anthony Fuller, if you are in the chat, we are not worthy, sir. We are not worthy. But we got 35 people coming in. People are starting to flow in. Let us know in the comments section right now, guys. Where are you watching from? Shout out your city.
Pastmaster from your neck of the woods.
Minnesota.
Hey, Snicker salad?
Yeah, Snicker salad. You know, where are you in? Where from Minnesota are you from, the Pastmaster? Let me know in the comments section.
And how tall are you?
Yeah, and how tall are you? I'm 6'5". There's a lot of tall people in Minnesota.
Apparently, everybody from Minnesota are just giants.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of true. There's short people that are in Minnesota. There's just an abnormally amount of tall people. That's what I'll say. So we got Andrew Close from Pittsburgh, DeAndrew Johnson from Washington, D.C., Dominic Schrader, Kent University. Nice, my guy.
King Confidence.
So you got,
I'm from NYC, but I'm in Georgia.
Oh, I love it, man. So we got an answer from, Minneapolis is where the Pastmaster is from. Illinois.
He's from and he's 6'1".
This is what I'm telling you.
Minnesota, tall people.
People from Minnesota are tall, man. It's just the way it is. I can't explain it. It's just maybe it's Viking blood, good genes.
That Norris blood.
I don't know what it is, but go ahead and keep shouting out your city in the chat right now. I want to know where you guys are coming from. We got Anthony Fuller in the chat from Fort Dix, New Jersey, my guy. We are not worthy, Your Highness. King Yenzer is in the chat, fellas. Oh my! And then we got King Confidence. I'm 6'3". I'm not from Minnesota, but shout out to Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, there's tall. I mean, we're not saying that Minnesota is the only place where there's tall people. I mean, 6'3", man, that's pretty darn good. Not quite as tall as me, but that's pretty darn good.
Sick flex, Sperry.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's probably about what, 5 inches taller than you, Chuggs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's got you by a couple there.
Tokyo,
we got a Tokyo in there. Robert Mullins from Tokyo.
I'm 5'10" and a quarter inch.
Okay, yeah, you got to count every quarter inch if you're Jeremy Chuggs. If you're under 6 foot, you're counting those up. All right, guys, let us know in the chat right now. Will the Steelers be a top 10 team in the National Football League next season? Type T if you think true, or type F if you think false. So, Chuggs, let me ask you, T or F?
Can I do like a push? Can I be like, they're gonna be 10 or 11? I don't know.
Yeah, they're probably going to be around that. I think they're probably going to be around that 10-11 range, where they're not going to be an elite team, because I think Matt Canada is probably going to hold this offense back a little bit.
And the hard part is, top 10 in the NFL. I'm pretty sure 7 or 8 of those teams are in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean you count up those teams, man. The Bengals are going to be really good.
Bengals, Chiefs, Bills.
I mean, Denver maybe Sean Payton might turn that organization.
Dolphins were up there. I mean, you have a lot of teams from the AFC that are going to be really good this next season.
Yeah, but I think the Steelers could be really good too, man. They got some great defensive pieces. I believe in Omar Khan, what he's doing.
The AFC North is the AFC North is going to be stacked next year.
Maybe. I mean, Cleveland's a huge wild card, because it's like, are we going to get the 2022 version of Deshaun Watson?
Are the Browns going to brown?
Version? Yeah, are the Browns going to be browning this next year? I think the Browns aren't going to be that good. I think Deshaun Watson, when players take an entire year off of football, it significantly affects how they play for the rest of their career. I mean, you saw that with Le'Veon Bell when he took the year off with the Steelers, right? He came back, he was never, ever the same. Deshaun Watson could be next in that line of players. So Browns, no. I think the Steelers will be better than the Browns. The Ravens, it completely depends on what happens with Lamar Jackson. We have no idea what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson right now. It seems like he's going to stay in-house on a franchise tag,
and I
don't know.
I feel like this question could be reframed to, do you think Kenny Pickett takes the second-year jump? Because that's the only way that you get top 10.
Yeah, that is true. If he doesn't take that leap,
then no way you're top 10.
The offense is going to be in trouble.
If you believe in Kenny Pickett, you're typing your T. If you're on the fence, you're typing F. Because really, that's where it comes down to, is if Kenny Pickett shows out this next season.
King Confidence, I thought this was Steelers Nation, fellas. Where's the faith? I have faith, okay? I have faith in Kenny Pickett. I think he will take that year 2 leap. It's just the Matt Canada thing is, I think it's really, really tough to have success on offense if you don't have the right guy calling the plays. In my personal opinion, the Steelers don't have that guy.
King Confidence says Steelers will win the AFC North. Bet my 401k on it.
Woo! Oh, King Confidence, we're going to hold your feet to the fire here, man. All right. I really think that you could be right if Kenny Pickett makes that next year leap. If they can get a really good cornerback, like a true lockdown cornerback in the draft. If they can fix the left tackle spot. And then Matt Canada, maybe they hire a senior offensive assistant to help him out, and this offense is better. They could win the division. They usually play well against the Bengals. They usually play well against the Ravens. They usually play well in division. And if Kenny Pickett is that guy, and I think that he has a very good chance to be that guy, I agree with you, King Confidence. I think there's a pretty darn good chance that the Steelers could get it done. So coming up here on the show, today we're going to be going over some spicy Steelers rumors. Taylor Lewan and Robert Woods just got released by the Tennessee Titans. I'll be talking about how well they could potentially fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then also later on in the show, the real ones will stick around for this one because it's really in-depth. All right, I'm going to be talking about the Steelers front office and the kind of philosophical changes that they're going through here, bringing in Andy Weidl to be their assistant GM, bringing in Omar to be their full-time GM, right? Their changes are coming, guys. I'm going to let you know what those changes are and which NFL GM they're going to be stealing from.
The
coming up. And then finally,
are a-changing.
That's right, Chuck. And then finally, we got a Steelers Live mailbag. We do it every single week here on the show. If you want to get a question on the show, use hashtag Steelers in the comment section, in the chat. Real ones know what to do here. Use hashtag Steelers, or you could do a super chat. If you super chat and you put a question in there, it will guarantee, it will be on you will skip the line. It will be on the mailbag today. It will be great. This is our super chat menu today. Any super chat that we get here on the show, it gets a shout out. Every single one. We appreciate every single person that super chats. $5 super chat. We're going to do a here we go chant at the end of the show. We're going to put them all in a row. I got my terrible towel right here. We're going to wave that around a little bit. And then we got a new promotion here where if you put in a $20 super chat or more, you are going to join what we call Steelers Hard Hat Mafia. So essentially, it's a real one kind of elite club there, guys, where if you just super chat one $20 super chat, okay, you're going to get your initials on a Steelers Talk hard hat that we are going to premiere on the show next week. You do not want to miss this, guys. There's only a certain amount of space on that hard hat, so if you want to get your initials on that Steelers hard hat and become a part of Steelers Hard Hat Mafia, go ahead and put a $20 super chat in there. And speaking of super chats, this was last week's MVPs, guys. These are the guys that really put in a good amount of money last week that were in the running for King Yinzer. Only one could win, though, and that was Anthony Fuller. Your Highness, you are officially King Yinzer. He put in a $100 super chat, which is 5 seconds left on the shot clock to be named King Yinzer. But Gabriel Santiago and Gary Reynolds did a great job as well. I wanted to give a great shout out to those guys because they were fantastic last week as well. So I want to know right now from you guys, should the Steelers sign Taylor Lewan this offseason? He just got cut by the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers could sign him at any moment. He is a free agent, so type S if you think that they should sign him, or type P if you think they should pass on him. Jeremy, what do you think the Steelers should do about Taylor Lewan? Do you think he'd be worth the risk?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think it all comes down to what does he want in a contract. If you can get him on a semi-cheap deal, then I say go for it.
So what do you think is like semi-cheap deal? Like under $10 million?
Yeah, I would say anything.
That's what he wants. He wants over $10 million at this
I would
point.
say anything under 12.
Yeah.
12, 11 million.
I mean, that's still a lot of money. He's coming off of 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years. He's 30 years old.
Maybe a 2-year deal, 22 million.
I'd be scared to death to sign anything more than a 1-year deal, and because of the injuries, I would want something less than 10 million. Like, I know that he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. I know when healthy, he's a really good player. It's just, even when he was healthy this past season before he tore his ACL, he wasn't that good. He wasn't playing that good this past year. So I am scared to death to sign Taylor Lewan. Now, if you sign him and he's a Pro Bowl left tackle and you sign him for like an $8 million contract or something, that's a great signing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That comes at a great value, and it's going to be a really great piece along that offensive line. But is he the piece that is going to be the long-term answer? Because it's he's getting older. You're going to have to replace him later on down the road anyway. So it's like, are you willing to take a risk on an older guy that's had injuries? I personally just feel super, super hesitant to make a move like this.
Yeah, I just not a lot of times you'll see a Pro Bowl tackle hit the free agency market.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just like,
rare.
If you can get him around that $8, $9, $10 million, maybe $11 million a year rank, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it either. All right, guys.
I mean, it's like, would you rather for $10 million? Would you rather have Chuggs or Taylor Lewan?
I would rather have Taylor Lewan. But it's like, do we have to spend that money? It's like you could cut Chuggs, then you could draft somebody that's even a cheaper contract, and then you can use that money on maybe like another cornerback in free agency.
Yeah.
You could do that.
I just feel like there's no surefire tackles in this draft. There's nobody that I'm like,
sure,
day one he's going to step in and be your left tackle of the future.
I mean, I can see why you say that.
Like there's no Penei Sewell in this draft.
There's no absolute slam dunk home run.
Rashawn Slater, even him, he a lot of people were like, this dude's legit.
Well, I mean Slater, his issue was the arm length, which is the same thing for Skoronski. So I feel like Skoronski is probably maybe number one in this class. But there's some guys, I think if the Steelers took them, I think they could be plug and play left tackles. That's just my opinion though. But at the end of the day, guys, it's going to be an interesting conversation. We're probably going to be talking a lot about Taylor Lewan on the show coming up. But first, guys, I want to give a little shout-out to some people that joined Note Again, turned on notifications, that subscribed to the channel, and they got in the comment section early. These were the first commenters on the last 5 videos. Shout out to Lincoln Siebel, Mr. Corin, Twin Dragon 56, Coy, Contres, I hope I'm saying that right, Contres, and then Gabriel Santiago. Thank you guys for joining Note Gang, getting in the comment section early. Really do appreciate you guys. And then I also want to give some shout outs to the people that follow me on Twitter. My promise to you guys is if you follow me on Twitter, at Jack_Sperry, you will get a shout out here on Steelers Live. So thank you to Kenneth Ketchpole, Varsity Legends Podcast, John McKee, Monte Allen Sutton Sr., Damon Vincent, Barry Zungray, I hope I'm saying that right, man, Low Normal, IQ Poker, Anthony Coyne, Zuli, and Davis. Appreciate you guys. And we got a couple of promotions today on the show. We like to have some fun. We had a lot of fun on last week's show. Hopefully this week we can challenge that. If we get up to 200 likes on this video. Right now we only have 15 likes, fellas. We need to get that number up. If we get up to 200 likes, okay, if we get up to 200, that would be the Steelers Talk Live record. Chuggs is going to pie me in the face at the end of the show. So we got whipped cream, we got paper plates. He's going to pie my face at the end of the show. And also we have another promotion for Super Chats. So if we get to $300 in Super Chats today in total, so if you join Hard Hat Mafia, if enough people join, right, if we get to $300, I'm going to get slapped in the face with a pizza slice by Mr. Jeremy Chuggs. So make sure to get those Super Chats in. And on today's show, we're going to be going here in just a second. We got some spicy Steelers rumors. Taylor Lewan to the Steelers. Is it a good idea for the Steelers to pursue? I will be breaking that down in just 1 second. We got Daniel Jeremiah mock draft reaction. We'll see who he has the Steelers taking and see my reaction to that. Then also the Steelers front office is making some changes, right? Omar Khan, this is his first full offseason as the GM. They are stealing some of the principles from another GM in the league, very successful GM. I'll be breaking that down later in the show. And then, of course, Steelers Live mailbag today. We do it every single week. Use hashtag Steelers in the comments comment section to get your question on the mailbag or super chat to skip the line. So, Chuggs, are you ready to start the show here? All right, we got 74 people watching. We're going to get into our first segment here, which is Spicy Steelers Rumors. Let's go. Taylor Lewan and Robert Woods have been cut by the Tennessee Titans. Will the Steelers pursue them? I will talk about that in just a second. Larry Ogunjobi has said that he wants to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, breaking down his comments and if the Steelers should re-sign him. And then I'll be reacting to Daniel Jeremiah's pick for the Steelers in his 1.0 NFL mock draft. It's all coming up here. But first here, we're going to get into Taylor Lewan. We're going to get into this guy we've been talking about for weeks here on the show. He has really been complimenting Mike Tomlin, the Steelers organization. It seems like he wants to be a Steeler. So here are some of his, here's his profile, right? He's a 3-time Pro Bowl left tackle, 3 years in a row. And then he suffered 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years. That's really the big bugaboo with him, is that he has been hurt. And then he's also getting older. So you combine the injuries with the age. And some people say Taylor Lewan is not worth the risk to bring in at left tackle. You just can't trust him to stay healthy, and you can't trust him to play at that Pro Bowl caliber level that he used to play at earlier on in his career. And if you take a look at the Steelers' offensive line depth chart right now, you got Dan Moore Jr. left tackle, Chukwuma Okorafor at right tackle. I think what they're going to do is they're going to cut Chukwuma Okorafor because you can save over $10 million if you make him a post-June 1st cut. So I think that's a pretty easy cut. Okorafor was the worst graded offensive lineman on the Steelers O-line last year. And then, you try to fill in either that left tackle or right tackle spot with someone in free agency, or what I would do is get somebody in the draft and maybe move Dan Moore Jr. over to right tackle, because I actually think he's more suited to be a right tackle than a left tackle. And the thing with Lewan is that it would be one thing if he was trying to get like kind of a cheaper contract on kind of a prove it kind of deal, like maybe a $7 or $8 million deal, but he wants over $10 million per season. He wants somewhere in the range of like $11 to $12 million, and that's quite a bit for a guy that's had the injuries that he's had at his age. And even when he was healthy last season, he wasn't playing at the Pro Bowl caliber level that he was earlier in the season. So the big question for the Steelers is this move worth the risk? For me, it's not. I don't think that the Steelers should go ahead and sign a guy that's had these kinds of injuries that you can't really trust to perform at a high level anymore. I think that it's best suited for the Steelers to go in the draft and draft a tackle early on. But let me know what you think in the comment section right now. Should the Steelers sign Taylor Lewan? Type HY for hell yes, or type HN for hell no. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So whenever you get an ad break, go ahead and go into the comment section, find that pinned comment, and answer today's question. So Taylor Lewan wasn't the only Titan to get cut yesterday. Titans actually made a lot of cuts, but another one we're talking about for the Steelers is Robert Woods. Now, Robert Woods had a very disappointing 2022 campaign, and quite frankly, most of the wide receivers for the Tennessee Titans did. But this is what Steelers Wire had to say about the potential of the Steelers targeting Robert Woods. Woods' production might not be elite, but if the Steelers could bring him in, bring him in on a reasonable contract, he would provide an excellent example for guys like George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Calvin Austin III. But personally, guys, I'm not a huge fan of signing Woods. He was just not good last year, period. He's more of an outside receiver than a slot receiver, so you're not really going to put him in the slot. If you sign him, you're probably putting him outside and sliding Deontay Johnson to the inside. But I think that even if you want to go that route and sign an outside wide receiver, Robert Woods isn't the first guy on your list. And I really don't know what he's going to be asking for on the free agency market. My guess is it'll probably be a relatively cheap contract, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be a team-friendly contract per se. And if you take a look at the Steelers wide receiver depth chart right now, I think the Steelers are sitting pretty good. Deontay Johnson did a really good job at getting open in 2022. Had some drop problems, some concentration drops, but I still am a believer in him. He is somebody that is a very crucial piece to the Steelers offense, especially on third down. George Pickens, a blooming superstar in this league, in my opinion. I am a big believer in him. And then Steven Sims, restricted free agent. Maybe he'll be back, maybe he won't. Calvin Austin III, coming off of an injury. You hope that he can come in and be a really good receiver. I think the Steelers will add a wide wide receiver, either in free agency or in the draft. I just don't think Robert Woods is the type of guy that fits what the Steelers are looking to do. I think they'll try to go get like a bigger slot guy to kind of complement Calvin Austin III, try to give them a different flavor at the slot wide receiver position. I don't think outside wide receiver, especially Robert Woods, makes sense for the Steelers. But let me know in the comment section what you think about Robert Woods. Should the Steelers sign him? Type 1 if you think yes, or type 0 in the comment section if you think no. All right, so next topic here, Larry Ogunjobi. Somebody that's hitting the free agent market, pretty decent player. It seems like he wants to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He really likes working for Mike Tomlin. He likes working with the guys that he's been working with on the defensive line. And this is what he had to say in an interview for Steelers.com. And he's talking about Mike Tomlin specifically. It's Tomlin's level of detail and understanding, his leadership. He played a pivotal role not only in my own personal development, but the development of the entire team, along with the coaches, support staff, and ownership. It's a first-class organization that's been run the right way for a really long time. So it really seems like Larry O wants to rejoin the Steelers, but the question is, should the Steelers want to bring him back, especially because PFF is projecting that he's going to want quite a large contract. But, Larry Ogunjobi, very solid player. I like Larry O. I think that he's a good player, solid starter, and if the Steelers can sign him back for a very reasonable contract, I would be all for bringing him back as that 5 technique there on the Steelers defensive line. Last year's PFF grade was about league average, right? It was not necessarily good. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was 61.7, which is a pretty average grade according to Pro Football Focus. 61st best defensive interior lineman in the National Football League. And right now, Pro Football Focus as well projects that he's going to be making $10 million per year over the next 3 years. And it's like, if you're the Steelers, you're already paying TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. You're going to be probably signing an extension for Alex Highsmith. You're paying Minkah Fitzpatrick. This defense is already so expensive. Are you really willing to commit to $10 million per season for a guy like Ogunjobi that's pretty much just putting up average production year in and year out? I'm not sure. But let me know in the comments section right now. Should the Steelers bring back Larry Ogunjobi? Type R if you think they should re-sign him, or type L if you think they should let him walk. Personally, I think they should let him walk unless he's willing to take a more team-friendly deal. Doesn't seem like he's going to, so my answer for this one is going to be let him walk, address the position elsewhere. So finally here on the Steelers Rumors video, I'm going to be talking about Daniel Jeremiah came out with his first NFL mock draft of the draft season, and he had a very interesting pick for the Steelers at number 17. I know my man Dominic Schrader is going to love this pick. Darnell Wright, the right tackle from the Tennessee Volunteers, 17th overall. Now, I like Darnell Wright. I think he's a good player. You look at his PFF grade last year, 71.4. That's pretty good. That's good for 110th in the country. And he's just a massive human being, guys. 6'6", 335 pounds. You can't go through him. It's hard to go around him. Your best bet is to try to get him off balance. And he really did a great job at the Senior Bowl. There was only really one edge rusher that really got the best of him consistently. That was Will McDonald from Iowa State. But other than that, Darnell Wright was arguably the best tackle prospect at the Senior Bowl. This is what Daniel Jeremiah had to say about the Steelers taking the massive volunteer tackle. Wright's a plug-and-play right tackle for an offensive line that needs to be overhauled to protect last year's first-round pick, Kenny Pickett. And I don't necessarily disagree with Daniel's logic here, but I just think it's a bit too early for Wright. I think at number 32, this is a great pick. Say you take a really good cornerback at 17 and Wright's still there at 32. I think this is a bloody fantastic pick, but for me, number 17 overall for a right tackle, not a left tackle, is something that I'm just not willing to do. That's not something that I think the Steelers are probably going to be willing to do. I guess we'll see, but if the Steelers are going to draft a right tackle like a Darnell Wright or a DeJuan Jones, I don't think it should be in the first round. It should be on day 2. So go ahead for me right now in the comment section and grade Daniel Jeremiah's pick for the Steelers here. Darnell Wright, right tackle for the Tennessee Volunteers, A, B, C, D, or F. My answer for this is going to be a B-. I like the player. I like the fit. I just don't like where he takes it. I think it's a bit of a reach. All right, man. So let's give some shout-outs here. Let's see what people think about that question, actually. So Alejandro says C. There's a bunch of different stuff here. So Dominic Schrader says, I saw his mock, but I think it's a reach, and he'll be there at 32. I hope he's there at 32, Dominic. I really hope he is. If the Steelers want to get, if a really good corner, like a Joey Porter Jr. Or a Christian Gonzalez or, maybe a Devin Witherspoon makes it to the Steelers at 17, pick him there, and then get Darnell Wright at 32. I think that's a fantastic draft for the Steelers.
I think it's a reach, but at the same time, sometimes with these prospects, you're like, perfect example, Cowboys took Micah Parsons. People were like, really? Like, for a linebacker, you're going to draft him at 10?
Yeah.
Ended up being a very good pick.
Well, he's probably the best defender in the National Football League, maybe besides Aaron Donald, but, he's probably the most valuable defensive piece right now just because he's still so young.
And it's like, it's hard because in that 10 to 20 range in the first round of the draft, it's hard because it's like you're not getting, like, the top 10 guys are like, in my opinion, those are the surefire. If you're drafting top 10, you think they're coming in and they're starting and being an impact player that year for you.
Yep, that's right.
11 to 20 is like you're getting guys who usually they could be in that top 10, but there's one thing off. Either their measurables, something off the field, either they didn't have the production that they should have in college, but they have that, that athletic ability or whatever it is to make them a first-round talent. So it's hard because obviously he has the measurables, he has everything like that, but it's like, can he, be a starting right tackle first year for you in the NFL?
I think Darnell Wright has what it takes to be a starting right tackle immediately. The question is, can he be a left tackle immediately? He does have balance issues from time to time. Just because he's such a big human being, it's tough to be that size and have good balance.
Lucky for him, he'll have some pretty good edge rushers to go up against in practice if he does get drafted by the Steelers.
If he's going up on the right side, he's going against T.J. Watt, like arguably the best there is on that right side in the National Football League. I mean, I'm not necessarily against drafting someone to play right tackle and keeping Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle, but picking a right tackle at number 17, I just think they could probably get, a little bit more value there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
So, guys, coming up here, we got the mailbag coming up here in just 1 second. If you want to skip the line and guarantee your question gets on the show, you can super chat. This is our menu today. Any super chat gets a shout out. Really do appreciate you guys. A $5 super chat will get a Here We Go chant. And then if you bring in a $20 super chat here, you get to join Steelers Hard Hat Mafia. We're going to be bringing in a hard hat next week. We're going to be putting a bunch of stickers on there with your initials on there. It's a little bit pricey, right? It's a $20 buy-in, but we want you guys to commit to this, right? We want you to commit to being a part of a real one here at Steelers Talk, and we want you to buy in a little bit there. So it's only a one-time purchase. Use this purchase one time. Once $20 super chat, you are part of Hard Hat Mafia for life. So if you want to get a question on the mailbag today, use hashtag Steelers in the comment section, or you can super chat to skip the line. Get your question up there first. Right now we got nothing. Who's going to be that first one to break it out? Who's going to be that first super
break
chat?
The seal.
Right now we only got 36 likes. Our goal today is 200, and if we get to 200 likes today, Chuggs will pie me in the face to end the show. We got whipped cream, we got paper towel, and he's going to get me right in the face. All right, guys. So if you want it, I see we got 94 people in the comments or in the chat right now. Let's get that number up to 50 before we get the mailbag here. Let's try to get that up to 50. Our goal today is 200. If we get to 200, the pie will come out. And if we get to 300 super chats today, I think that's probably a far cry. I think that's going to be tough. But I think the price is worth it, because if we get to $300 in super chats today, Chuggs will slap me in the face with a piece of pizza. I really don't want that to happen because it'll get in my hair. I have to deal with that for the rest of the day. But if it happens, it happens. I will do it. That's my price. $300.
I said we go with a fish next time.
A fish.
Just a huge raw fish.
Yeah. Chuggs brought this idea to me this morning where he's like, what would be the price if I brought in a big fish, like a tuna? Like, what would it cost for me to slap you with it? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, how big is a tuna? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I guess maybe we'll bring out a fish here on one of these shows. I guess we'll see on that. But
you ready for the mailbag?
I'm ready for the mailbag. Are you ready
for the mailbag?
We got some questions. We got some good questions in there.
I think we have some pretty good questions in there.
All right, man. I'm ready. Let's get to the mailbag on Steelers Talk Live right now. Steelers fans, I am answering your burning Steelers questions here on the Steelers Talk mailbag, and I really do appreciate everybody that super chats, that puts in questions here. We are recording this during the live show, but if you're watching this, maybe it's on the weekend and you missed this week's live show, but you still want to give a little something to the channel and get your question on next week's mailbag, you can send us a super thanks. So YouTube has super thanks, which essentially allows you to donate to the channel outside of live videos. All you have to do is click the thanks icon. It looks like that, with the heart with the money sign. We really do appreciate your support, and if you give us a super thanks, we will give you a shout out, and if there's a question on that super thanks, we will put your question on next week's live mailbag right at the top. So let's just jump right into the questions. I have not seen these. I cannot wait to see this. So D Nice asks, will George Pickens have double-digit touchdown catches next season? I think he will. I think I'm a big believer in George Pickens. People that watch the show I think he's going to be a superstar wide receiver in the National Football League. I am a huge fan of George Pickens. I think that he's got the size. I think he's got the speed. I think he's one of the best 50-50 ball receivers in the National Football League. I am very, very excited to see what George Pickens is able to do from year one into year two. Like, he makes some of the most ridiculous catches you will ever see in your entire life. That catch against the Browns was maybe the best catch I've ever seen. It was right up there with the Odell catch. I think George Pickens is bloody fantastic. I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's going to ascend to that wide receiver one role for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. I think of him that highly, and I do like Deontay Johnson. I just think George Pickens is a special kind of cat. So go ahead in the comment section right now and let me know. Will George Pickens have over or under 9.5 touchdown catches in 2023? So essentially, will he have double-digit touchdowns or not? Type O if you think over, or type U for under. For me, I am smashing that over. I think he might get up to like 12 or 13. I think that he's a really good player. Can't wait to see him blossom. So now we got a question from Your Highness, Anthony Fuller. King Yenzer is in the chat here. He asks, if Kelly Ringo is there at 49, does it make sense for the Steelers to draft him? 100%, Anthony. 100%. If Kelly Ringo drops to 49, the Steelers should absolutely swoop him up. I think he's going to be an absolute beast at the Combine, and I think that's going to raise his draft stock a little bit. I think he'll probably be end of the first kind of guy, not a second-round guy after that. But, you know, if he's there at 49, the Steelers haven't taken a cornerback yet. I think they need to run that card in. I think that he's a really good player. Look at the Steelers' cornerback depth chart right now. You know, Cam Sutton is a free agent. Will he be coming back? James Pierre is a restricted free agent. William Jackson III likely getting cut. Akella Witherspoon coming off an injury in a bad year. Levi Wallace kind of hit or miss this past year. The Steelers absolutely need to address cornerback this offseason. I think they will draft a cornerback by the end of day 2. It's just going to be interesting to see where they kind of go there. Will they prioritize corner in round 1? Will it be on day 2? It'll be very interesting to see. But if the Steelers haven't taken a cornerback and Ringo is there at 49, they need to sprint that card up to the podium. Next question comes from Theodore Restucci, who asks, what part of the offense is most crucial to the success of the team overall? Play calling, line play, skill position play, quarterback play. Now, the correct answer is all of it matters, Theo, but if I have to pick one thing that is the most important, I will say probably line play. If you cannot control the line of scrimmage, if you cannot protect your passer, it almost doesn't matter what you do on a football field. Like, you can have like a Kyle Shanahan that can scheme things open, but it's like if you can't give your quarterback time, if you can't give your running back running lanes and dominate the line of scrimmage, you also can't convert on 3rd and 4th and shorts if you don't have a good offensive line, right? You need to have that bruising offensive line to really be able to do the things you want to do on a football field. That affects the play calling, it affects the quarterback play, it affects everything else on the football field. So if I have to pick one thing, Theo, where I have to say is the most important, I am going to say offensive line play, which is why it is so important for the Steelers to get it right this offseason. So now we got a question from Dominic Schrader, who says, if they lock down cornerback in free agency via Jamel Dean and Sutton, what's stopping them from drafting left tackle at 17 and Darnell Wright at 32? Nothing necessarily, Dominic. I think that I think what they would do in this situation, say the Steelers sign Jamel Dean and Cam Sutton back. You don't really need a high-end corner. I think what they'll do is probably get another piece on the defensive line, like a Brian Brzee or something like that, and then a tackle. I don't think they would double dip. I don't think it would necessarily be a bad idea to go get 2 different tackles there right at the top of the draft. I just think it's a little bit less likely. I think they might, if this situation happens, I think they'll probably go offensive line, defensive line instead of the double dip strategy. All right, guys, let's have a word from our sponsor real quick. From Fanatics, and they sell terrible towels at a great price. They got a bunch of great designs. They've got a Mother's Day one, a Father's Day one on there. They have one of Acrisure Stadium on there. They just got a regular one. They got quick delivery times. I got mine from Fanatics. It came super fast. I really do appreciate everything that Fanatics does. Like I said, guys, they got a bunch of different designs. So whatever your kind of flavor is of terrible towel that you want camo, you want a Mother's Day one to get for your mom, or a Father's Day one for your dad, whatever it may be. They have a terrible towel for you. And if you don't have one yet, can you really call yourselves a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? I personally don't think so. I think it's a required piece of memorabilia, of whatever you want to call it. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you need a terrible towel. So get yours today at chatsports.com/terrible towel. So now moving on to the next question here. It comes from WIID45. I don't even know how to say that, but he asks, is Ahkello Witherspoon washed, or do you think he'll have a bounce-back season next year? Now, this is an interesting question because Ahkello Witherspoon, you can save $4 million by cutting him. He had a really bad season in 2022, but he's been a pretty darn good player in this league for a while now, and, he's going to be 100% healthy, and his cap hit isn't actually that much. So I think the Steelers are going to try to keep him in-house. I don't think they're going to cut him. I think they're going to hope that his hamstring is fully healthy, he can get back up to his normal speed, and he can be the player that he once was, because he was a pretty darn good player before this past year. You take a look at his PFF grades in San Francisco in 2020. One of the best corners in the National Football League with an 80.2 grade, 6th best corner in the league, and then in 2021, his first year with the Steelers, still pretty darn good, 75.8, which is good for 13th in the league. Then this past year, he gets hurt against the Cleveland Browns, and he never recovers, and you look at that terrible grade. He lost his speed. Hopefully he gets that back in 2023, and if you take a look at his cap hit for next year, it's actually not that much, $5.5 million for somebody that has played at that high level in the National Football League. Could be a potential value play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think there's a pretty darn good chance that he sticks with the Steelers in 2023. I think that's a smart move for the Steelers. And, even if he's not back up to starter level play, he's going to be a backup. He's going to be someone that's been in the defense. He knows how to play. So I think that at the very least, they will keep him on as a backup. But I think they're going to keep him in the hopes of him starting because he has been a good player in this league before. But let me know in the comment section right now, what should the Steelers do with Ahkello Witherspoon? Type C if you think cut, or type K if you think keep. For me, I think they should keep him. I think that he's got some pretty nice value upside, and I think that he could be a pretty darn good player for the Steelers if it works out in 2023. Next question comes from Declan C, and he asks, do you think that the Steelers draft a left guard? He will make Dan Moore a sufficient left tackle. Now, I don't think so. I think that Kevin Dotson, I think that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization actually like Kevin Dotson. I know a lot of Steelers fans don't like him because there's been a couple clips on Twitter of him having some absolutely atrocious reps on film. But if you take a look at his overall grading last season, it was actually pretty darn good. It wasn't bad. It was about league average. He's not somebody that's like a really bad offensive guard. He's just not. He's actually a pretty darn good pass protector. So I think that Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan are going to keep him. Now, does that mean that the Steelers won't draft an interior offensive lineman? Not necessarily. I think that there's still a chance that they could to get some depth because they have zero depth along the offensive line. Their starters are okay, and then their depth is just absolutely atrocious. They do need to fill up those backup ranks with some good players in the draft, I think. So I think there's still a pretty good chance that the Steelers end up taking a guard or a center in this year's draft. I just don't think it will be someone to replace Dotson, at least in 2023. Next question comes from Matt Hyde here, and he asks, do you think the Steelers will restructure Minka's contract to free up space? The answer to this question is yes, Matt. I absolutely do. He's got multiple years left on his deal. It's a very restructurable contract. Now, How much they restructure it, how aggressive they are with the restructure is up for debate. It kind of depends on how aggressive the Steelers want to be in free agency. If they want to go out and get a big-name defensive lineman like a Daron Payne or a Javon Hargrave or someone along those lines, they could definitely front-load his contract a ton. But at the end of the day, you are going to have to pay that cap hit is going to come due eventually in later years. I'm not sure if the Steelers want to do that. So it really does depend how much money do the Steelers need to get the guys that they want in free agency. That's what it will come down to. That's what the restructure will be based on. But I absolutely do think that Minkah will get restructured, at least at some point this offseason. Next question comes from Brian Love. How would we feel about getting Byron Leftwich as a senior offensive assistant? I wouldn't hate it. He is a Super Bowl winning offensive play caller. A lot of people think Bruce Arians called the plays in Tampa when they won the Super Bowl. It wasn't. It was Byron Leftwich. But at the end of the day, once Bruce Arians left and he wasn't there in the offensive meetings to kind of guide him, the offense was bad in 2022, even with Tom Brady, who, some people say Tom Brady was washed last season, and, they might be right, but in my personal opinion, based on what I saw on film from him this year, he was actually pretty good. It's just, the scheme wasn't all that great. Guys weren't getting open. The offensive line was banged up, and pressure was getting in his face all the time. I think that Byron, as a senior offensive assistant, would be a good call. He's got connections to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization. He's a former backup for the Steelers. So I think this would be a good fit, but personally, I would go with Pep Hamilton. I think Pep Hamilton's number one on my list with Byron Leftwich shortly after him, at least on my list. Next question comes from Harry99, who asks, what are the chances that Cam Sutton gets re-signed this offseason? So this one's tricky because I think the Steelers are going more into front office philosophy that goes less into paying cornerbacks big-time money. But at the end of the day, Cam Sutton and the Steelers have both said that they want Sutton to return. Like, Sutton likes it in Pittsburgh. He likes the system. He likes the guys in the locker room. So the question is, how much money is he going to be asking in free agency? If he's going to be asking for like $12 to $14 million, I think the Steelers, there's a chance that they say you can go somewhere else for that price. But if he's willing to take kind of more of a team-friendly deal, like maybe a $10 million contract over the next 3 years, then that's when I think a deal will get done. Question is, will Cam take less money to stay with the Steelers? In my opinion, I think that he probably will. So I'm going to say that I do like the chances of him returning to the Steelers in 2023. So fill in the blank here for me in the comment section. Cam Sutton is a top blank cornerback in the National Football League. For me, I'm going to say he's a top 30 receiver or top 30 cornerback. Now, that might not seem like super high to you, but you got to remember that with all these nickel packages in the National Football League today, most teams have 3 corners that get a lot of playing time. So a top 30 guy is like in the top 10th percentile. So I really do like that. I really do like Cam. I think he's a good player, plays outside, inside. Might not be like that upper echelon guy, but I think he's a very solid piece. So the last question here comes from Marjo Jones, who asked, do you think the Steelers move back into the first round? There's a chance, okay? I think that if all the offensive tackles that they like are gone, and there's no defensive tackle or defensive lineman that they like at 17, there's a very good chance that they trade down because I think they're going to try to build through the draft. I think they're going to continue to try to build on the defensive line, on the offensive line. I think that it's a very good possibility that they move back if they don't like anybody at 17.
So, Sperry, I actually think he's asking, do you think they can move back into the first round after their 17th pick?
Okay. I think I misunderstood the question. Okay, so will they move back into the first round? It's a possibility. Like, say they have 2 players, say they have a left tackle and a cornerback that they just feel like they need to get, right? And you take an offensive tackle there at 17 and say like Joey Porter Jr. falls to like say 23 or 24 and you have an opportunity to trade up. That's when I think a trade up is possible. But I'm not sure how likely a trade-up scenario is. It's possible that they trade up for a left tackle. Like, say they really love Peter Skoronski, and they need to get him, and he's available, say, at like 12, and someone's trying to look down. That's when I think a potential move-up is possible to get a left tackle for the future that you feel like can be a day-one starter. But I think the more likely move is that they're going to stick at 17, take their picks and just pick accordingly and just see who falls to them. I think that's more of what the Steelers try to do. It seems like every time they trade up, they draft a guy like Devin Bush. Doesn't really seem to work out for the Steelers, but I guess we'll see how that works out for the Steelers this year. So go ahead and interact with me on social media. I'm at Jack_Sperry on Twitter. If you give me a follow on Twitter, I will give you a shout out on next week's Steelers live show. And then on Instagram, I'm at sparedog.football. I put my mock drafts up there, a bunch of different other content for the NFL and the Steelers. I do Kenny Pickett film analysis, all that good stuff. So if you want some more content from me on social media, go to at Jack_Sperry on Twitter or at sparedog.football on Instagram. All right, so let's talk about this question here. Will George Pickens have over or under, will he have double-digit touchdowns? Chuggs, what do you think?
Ooh. I'm going to say over just because he is a red zone threat, and I feel like he's so short-handed, and he reminds me of like prime Des Bryant in a way where in the red zone, I feel like one-on-one, he's a threat to get like a fade ball every single time if it's single coverage. 100%. I think very few corners in this league, and that says a lot about George Pickens. I think very few corners in this league can take George Pickens one-on-one on a fade route in the red zone.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
You could probably count them on one hand.
Yeah.
Guys that are big enough, guys that have good enough ball skills, guys that have good enough mirroring ability. The list is very short.
He's not the tallest wide receiver in the league, but his ball skills and his athletic ability to get up there and climb the ladder are just amazing, insane.
It's so good.
I don't want to hype him up too much. I already kind of gave him the Dez comparison, but like his ball skills kind of remind me of an early DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, yes. I think that's a very, very good comp. Around the same height, great hands, great body control from both of them.
Yes.
I think that it's not crazy to think that in 2 to 3 years down the line, George Pickens, we're going to be talking about him in the same light we were talking about DeAndre Hopkins a couple years back as one of the best receivers in the National Football League.
Oh, yeah.
He should be one of the best red zone receivers in the football. Last year he wasn't because Matt Canada just for some reason didn't want to target him in the red zone. But he should be. He absolutely should be one of the top red zone targets. I think next year, I hope Canada wises up to this fact and targets him more in the red zone, which will lead to more touchdown catches. I have faith that he is going to be over 10 touchdown catches next season. I think he'll probably be around that 12 to 13 range, close to a touchdown a game, because that's what he should be. I mean, that's what the talent says that he should be. I think that he is fantastic at locating the ball and catching it, and just like it's just incredible what he can do. I mean, you see what the catches that he makes, and they say his best catches are in practice. Like, we've seen some incredible catches from George Pickens in games, but I mean, I would pay anything to see well, maybe not anything, but I would pay a large amount of money to see that practice tape of him making some of those catches, because the kid's an absolute freak. I think that he's going to be a really good player. All right, man. We got to get into this next segment. I'm going to be telling you an NFL GM that the Steelers are kind of replicating and stealing secrets from. It's going to be one for the real ones. It goes really in depth in Steelers team building, strategy, all that different stuff. So let's just jump right into that right now, Chuggs. Welcome into Steelers Talk, Yinzers. Today, I'm going to be talking about the changes that are going to be made from a philosophical standpoint in the Pittsburgh Steelers front office, led by Omar and assistant GM Andy Weidl. Andy Weidl is somebody that is coming to us from the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Some of that worked for Howie Roseman for a very, very long time. Howie Roseman is known as one of the best NFL GMs in history. He's one of the best team builders. He's built two separate mega house, like superstar level rosters. He's a Super Bowl champion, and Andy Weidl worked directly under him from 2016 to 2022. And like I said, he's an Howie Roseman disciple, and he's looking to bring some of those principles that have made the Eagles so successful over the last half decade to the Steel City. I can't wait to show you what kind of changes are going to be coming, because Omar Khan coming in here, I think is going to be a really, really good GM for the Steelers. He showed at the trade deadline that he's willing to be aggressive, that he's willing to make the moves that he's wanting to make. Kevin Colbert, the old GM, was somebody that was a bit more conservative. It seems like Omar Khan's going to be a bit more aggressive, just like Howie Roseman is, the Eagles GM, because he's one of the best in the National Football League. So it seems like the Steelers brought in one of his assistants, and Andy Weidl, to be the assistant GM here in Pittsburgh, to kind of copy or steal some of the concepts that Howie Roseman has implemented that have made the Eagles such a success. I'm going to be getting into the Roseman rules in just a second, but before we get into today's action, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Here at Steelers Talk, we provide comprehensive, premium Steelers news and rumors content every single day here on YouTube. If you're looking for one spot to get all of your Steelers news and rumors content, from the draft to free agency to every time they make a cut, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You're not going to regret it. Try it out for a week, guys. If you subscribe to the channel right now, try it for a week. You don't like the content, unsubscribe. I guarantee that you will enjoy the content here at the channel, because we are passionate about what we do, and we love the Steelers. So click that subscribe button right now. All right, so the first Roseman rule here that the Steelers are going to be trying to bring into the Steelers organization, their front office, is invest in the quarterback position. Now, you might say every organization does this, Jack. Every team is looking for that superstar franchise quarterback, and that is true. But Howie Roseman and the Eagles have been specifically focused on not just the starting quarterback, but backups as well. You need to have a solid plan at backup quarterback. The Eagles have been willing to pay big money for backup quarterbacks for a long time, all the way back to Chase Daniel, to Nick Foles, to even Gardner Minshew right now. And it's hard to disagree with the results. The one Super Bowl championship for the Eagles in their history came on the back of a backup quarterback in Nick Foles. A premium backup can do wonders for you in the National Football League. Now, I'm not saying that we should expect Kenny Pickett to get hurt, and that the Steelers should expect a backup to win them a Super Bowl. I'm just saying that if that happens, you have to have a solid plan in place so your season is not absolutely over if that ends up happening. Hopefully, Kenny Pickett is that guy to be their franchise quarterback in the future. Let me know what you think about Kenny Pickett's future here. Do you think that he's going to be, at some point, a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League? Type HY if you think hell yes, or type HN if you think hell no. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break, go ahead and go into the comment section, find that pinned comment, and answer today's question. All right, next Roseman rule is build the trenches. Roseman is well known for his draft history, where it seems like he only drafts offensive linemen or defensive linemen unless he has 2 first-rounders. If he has that second first-rounder, he'll take a Devontae Smith, a wide receiver, right? He'll take somebody else. But at the end of the day, the Eagles build the trenches. They overbuild them. They stuff the roster with as many premium and just straight up solid offensive and defensive linemen as they possibly can, because they understand that NFL games are won in the trenches, and they understand that on the offensive line, you can't convert 4th and 3rd and short without a good offensive line. It's hard to be a good goal line team without a good offensive line. You can't protect your quarterback without a good O-line. You need a good offensive line to protect your quarterback. And then on defense, you need to have a really, really good depth. You need to have good depth at every single position so that the guys on the field can stay fresh. You need guys. You can't just have the same 4 guys out there time and time again, because by the 4th quarter, they're going to be gassed. So Howie Roseman has been for a long time a preacher of go and get the best defensive line players that you can. Overstuff the roster. You look at the Eagles defensive line, it is always stacked with defensive line talent. They have great backups. They have great rotational pieces. Look for Andy Weidl and Omar Khan to do the same for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2023 offseason. And, even when you think that they're set, even when they sign a defensive tackle in free agency, still expect them to take a defensive tackle or edge rusher or both in the draft. They want to keep that supply up. They want to keep a talent flow going through those units so that they're always tip-top shape. They're always in good shape, because if you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, you always have a chance at winning an NFL football game. So coming up, I'm going to tell you how rule number 2 could affect the Steelers' draft strategy. But before I do that, let's have a word from our sponsor at Fanatics. And they have a great, so if you don't have a lot of Steelers apparel in your closet, you want to add a couple of pieces, they have a great Pittsburgh Steelers shirt combo on their website right now. You can get shirts like this. I think that, they're very high quality. They're great prices, quick delivery times, just like with their terrible towels, guys. If you are low on Steelers gear, you want to add a couple pieces to your wardrobe, go ahead and go to chatsports.com/Pitt combo to get shirts like these. I mean, when I started this job, guys, I had 0 Pittsburgh Steelers apparel. And then I get all my stuff from Fanatics now. They are a fantastic company, great prices, great quality, fast delivery times. Now I have a whole closet full of Steelers stuff because I just can't stop buying this stuff, guys. All right, so now let's talk about how rule number 2 from Howie Roseman, spend on the big guys, is going to affect how the Steelers approach the draft. So I think that they're for sure going to add at least one premier offensive lineman early on in the draft, whether it be in round 1 or in round 2. They're going to draft one. These, I think, are the 5 guys that are probably the most likely to get drafted by the Steelers. I think Peter Skoronski and Paris Johnson Jr. are probably going to be gone by the Steelers pick, but they could take a guy like Broderick Jones at number 17, Anton Harrison from Oklahoma is somebody that is rising up draft boards because apparently he's going to show out at the Combine. Darnell Wright and DeJuan Jones are massive right tackle prospects they could probably get on day 2. And then if the Steelers wanted to go interior offensive lineman, they could go a guy like John Michael Schmitz, who is a center/guard, can play either one. He's going to be a really, really good player in the National Football League for a long time. So if he's the best player on their board, say at number 50 overall, they can go ahead and take him. I wouldn't bat an eye whatsoever. You got to build the offensive line if you're the Steelers. Then on the defensive line, let's start with defensive tackle. They could go out and get a guy like Brian Brzee. Let's say that all the offensive tackle prospects that they like at 17 are gone. They could go out and get a guy like Brian Brzee, someone that's a great, great fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers gap-penetrating run scheme on defense. I think he'd be a great 5 technique or 3 technique when Cam Hayward steps away. Then you got Kalijah Cansey from Pitt. A lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans know this guy well. He is athletic. He can rush the passer as a 5 technique. If he makes it to the second round, look for the Steelers to consider taking this guy. Then the Hawaiian Mountain himself, Siaki Ika, the nose tackle, my number 1 nose tackle in this year's draft class. Really, really good run stuffer. Could be that one technique the Steelers have been looking for. And then same thing with Keanu Benton, someone that's been rising, someone that was really, really good, has been really good in the process so far, someone that can rush the passer as well. I really like Keanu Benton. If he's there like at pick 50 or even in round 3, I would definitely consider taking him if I were the Steelers. Then Mazi Smith, really good run stuffer as well, another option for the Steelers to take advantage of. And then on the outside, if you want to get a rotational piece to go along with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, there's Miles Murphy that you could potentially get at number 17, really toolsy player. Another toolsy player in Andre Carter Jr., great athlete, long limbs, somebody that Mike Tomlin can mold into that next great outside linebacker. Nolan Smith, physical freak. If he's there at pick 32, I think the Steelers will definitely look at him. And then Will McDonald, the 4th, was the best edge rusher in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Point blank, period. He made Darnell Wright look silly, and Darnell Wright was fantastic all week. This guy's going to be a really good player. I think he'll probably go day 2. I really like him. Then B.J. Ojulari. I actually like B.J. Ojulari better than Azeez Ojulari, and Azeez is a pretty darn good player in the NFL himself. I think B.J. would be a fantastic fit for what the Pittsburgh Steelers want to do. So what this means, guys, building the trenches is the priority for the Steelers, which means I would expect cornerback to be a pick that the Steelers end up using on day 2, right? This cornerback class is excellent. You can get some really great value on day 2 of this year's draft. So I think that Steelers will hone in on the defensive line and the offensive line in round 1. I really don't think it's going to be a corner because I think that this front office is starting to shift towards a philosophy of building the trenches and using high-level draft picks to fill those positions. So let me know what your opinion is in the comment section right now. When should the Steelers use a draft pick on a quarterback in the draft this year? Type 1 for day 1, so that's just round 1, or type 2 for day 2, so that's rounds 2 or 3. I really don't think they'll go past day 2 without taking one. I think it's either going to be day 1 or day 2, so let me know in the comment section right now what you think. Type 1 if you think round 1, or type 2 if you think round 2 or 3. Next up on the Roseman rules, invest in pass catchers and safeties. Now, this is what the Eagles did last year by trading one of their first-round picks for A.J. Brown, right? And it completely changed the dynamic of their offense. A.J. Brown, one of the best receivers in the National Football League. Howie Roseman's not afraid to invest in pass catchers at the tight end position, at the wide receiver position. He spent a first-round pick on Devontae Smith, and of course he spent another one on A.J. Brown, and that offense was as dynamic as it comes. Quez Watkins as more of a deep threat. They're not going to overpay necessarily for wide receivers, but they're going to spend some money. They're going to use some high-level assets on guys like this. And you look at the Steelers' wide receiver depth chart right now, they're going to invest in guys like Deontay Johnson and George Pickens in the future. Calvin Austin III, if he develops into the guy that we hope that he becomes, he's going to get a big payday as well. Expect the Steelers to add another wide receiver in free agency or in the draft, somebody in the mid-rounds, day 3, or someone on a cheaper deal in free agency to kind of give them a bit more depth. And then another thing that I want to say, guys, is that I think personally, safety is kind of a position that's kind of looked down on in NFL circles along with inside linebacker. But to me, a high-level safety is incredibly valued to an NFL defense because the safeties literally pretty much do everything, right? They have to play deep. They have to be able to read quarterbacks' eyes. They're gonna have to play. They're gonna have to seal the gap in a run fit, right? They're gonna have to match up one-on-one with a tight end that's bigger than them or a slot receiver that's shiftier than they are. They have to do a ton of stuff. So if you get a guy like a Minkah Fitzpatrick or even like a Terrell Edmonds, that's a really darn good player, or a guy like DeMonte KZ, you're going to hold on to them. You're going to pay them the money that they deserve. And the thing is, a high-level safety costs way less than a high-level corner just because the feeling around the league is that a high-end corner is worth more than a safety. And I just really don't think that that's the truth. You look at guys like DeMonte KZ, someone that came back from injury and completely changed the dynamic of the Steelers' defense. That's what good safety play does. I really think that if you combine these three guys, KZ, Edmonds, and Fitzpatrick on the field at the same time in that 3 safety package, I think the Steelers defense is one of, if not the best defense in the National Football League because you got great versatility. You can do a whole bunch of different things with 3 safeties on the field. And I think that organizations like the Eagles and now the Steelers are really going to prioritize safety play. And fourth up here on the Roseman rules, find value at cornerback, inside linebacker, and running back. So essentially what find value means is don't pay top dollar for these things, right? Cornerbacks, in my opinion, are very similar to running backs on offense, right? Running backs, you can find good running backs that can be successful in the league in the 5th round, 6th round. You can find cheap contracts in free agency. Cornerbacks are very much similar, right? It's different with like a Sauce Gardner or Darrelle Revis or Jalen Ramsey, someone that is a bona fide superstar and can really be trusted one-on-one against any matchup, point blank, period. But there's just not that many guys in the league, and some of these guys are making an inordinate amount of money, but they're not those kinds of guys. So what Howie Roseman has done with the Eagles for years is finding guys at a value, guys that are kind of undercut, some guys that are being doubted, and you can find good cornerbacks pretty easily in this league later in the draft, especially in this year's draft, and then also in free agency. And at the end of the day, guys, in the National Football League, the pass rush is king. I think that takes priority. So you got to find good corners. I'm not saying don't have good corners, but what I am saying is find value at those positions. And Cameron Sutton, that's the big question. Is 3 years, $12 million a value contract for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for a guy like Cam Sutton, a guy that isn't really a true number 1 cornerback, a guy that's a good corner? He's going to provide a lot of value to a team that needs a guy that can play both inside and outside. And the Steelers could be one of those teams. But is $12 million over 3 years, with how expensive the defense already is that really worth it? Or would the Steelers rather use that money to go get another really solid piece on the defensive line and really make it one of the best in the National Football League? I personally don't know the answer to that. I hope that they can get a deal done with Cam for like $10 million, kind of a more team-friendly deal. I hope that's what happens, but I have a creeping feeling that the Steelers organization is just not going to want to pay him the money that frankly he does deserve. So let me know in the comment section right now, which position would you rather spend big money on this offseason, cornerback or defensive line? For me, I would probably I want both. I think I want a great defensive line and a great secondary, but I really think that the Steelers are going to be focusing in on that defensive line. Let me know what you think is the right answer in the comment section. All right. So we got through our cuts here, Chuggs. What do you think? As someone that's an Eagles fan, someone that's watched Howie Roseman build teams for a while now and be arguably the best in the league at it, what are your thoughts on how the Steelers should approach this offseason when it comes to the secondary?
Oh, when it comes to the secondary.
Do you think they should try to find guys out of value like a Rock Ya-Sin and then draft somebody? Or do you think they should try to go out and get a big-name guy?
So the one thing I disagreed slightly on that list is I feel like you can find cornerbacks at an easier price tag, but they cannot be your cornerback one. Because if you look at the Eagles, cornerback one, they traded a second-round pick and paid Darius Slay.
Yes, they did.
So I feel like your cornerback one, if you can get a solid cornerback one and get that good, get that position good, then you can go ahead and get like an Avonte Maddox or a couple other guys that can play good in the nickel. Draft a couple cornerbacks in the 4th and 5th round, and especially like you said, this draft really deep.
So then, the question is, do you pay Cam Sutton? Cam Sutton's not a true cornerback one. I love Cam. Yeah. I think that he's a really good corner. He's not a Jalen Ramsey type or a Sauce Gardner. Where you put him one-on-one on a guy, and there's with no safety helping you feel good about it. He's not that guy. Are you willing to pay a guy upwards of $12 million when you already have the most expensive defense in the National Football League? I would pay him. I want to make that clear in the chat. I would pay him.
That's why I think
But I'm not sure the Steelers are going to want to trade.
I think the Steelers go cornerback with one of their first 2 picks.
I mean, that's a good option too.
Because, you kind of get the best of both. You get a possible cornerback one on a rookie contract.
Yep.
And then you can kind of use that philosophy of, all right, your other cornerbacks, you can kind of go on the cheaper route, find value corners here and there,
Yeah, I that's what I would do. I 100% agree with your assessment there. And my thing is, if you don't re-sign Cam Sutton and you try to build that defensive line instead, the player that you get should be really freaking good.
Yeah.
That player needs to work out because we already know Cam Sutton works in this defense. We already know that he's very, very solid, and he can be a really good starter for the Steelers next season. Going and getting a guy that you just have I really hope a deal gets done, but just given the philosophy and the trends of what Howie Roseman and the Eagles have done, makes me worried that a deal won't get done.
We actually have a super chat from Josh.
Oh, let's go, Josh.
$2 super chat. Is it possible to see D-Hop and Pickens together? Would it work?
I think it would work. I just don't think it's going to happen.
The money is where I don't know.
The money is tough because you're the way it would work is that the Steelers would trade Deontay Johnson to the Cardinals. And the contracts there are pretty comparable. You could make it work financially if you trade Deontay Johnson.
You probably have to trade Deontay Johnson in a third.
Yeah, that's Deontay Johnson a third or a fourth, somewhere in there. I think it would work if let's say dream world scenario, DeAndre Hopkins, that trade ends up happening. I think it would work. I think DeAndre Hopkins would be an excellent mentor for George Pickens because they're very similar type of players. And then the other thing, good luck guarding both of those guys. They're both tall. They're both great. They both have great hands. They both have great body control and to make these insane contested catches. Good luck guarding both of these guys. Most teams just have one big corner to deal with these bigger type receivers. Good luck guarding both of them, man. That's all I'm going to say. And then you got hopefully Calvin Austin III in the slot to kind of get open, be that fidgety guy, be that get open guy on third downs.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastic situation, Josh. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the team loves Deontay Johnson, and I don't think they're going to be willing to get rid of him unless he asks for a trade, which seems very unlikely at this point.
True that. All right, guys.
That's going to do it. That's going to do it for today's show. I really appreciate everybody that is in the chat. I know because we were a little bit earlier today, a little bit lighter on the numbers, but I do appreciate everybody that came in to watch the show today. You guys are true Yinzers, real ones here for the channel, true friends of the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed today's live show. We provide daily Steelers news and rumors content here on the channel. We try to have a good time here on Steelers Talk. Wasn't as epic as last week's show, but I mean, if every show is epic, none of them are, Chug. So, it's nice to mix in a couple of these here and there. Talk about football. Talk about the ins and outs.
Just a bunch of guys.
Of team building strategy.
Just a bunch of guys talking
that
football.
kind of stuff. So, really appreciate all the Yinzers in the chat. I will see you guys tomorrow. This has been Steelers Talk Live. Chugs, are you ready to say goodbye?
I'm ready to say goodbye.
I'm ready to say goodbye. All right, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. My name's Jack Sperry. This has been Steelers Talk Live. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.